Welcome to Charts Today. It is Friday, the 3rd of July, and we are heading into the 4th of July weekend in the US. But we are seeing the Nasdaq yesterday. Interesting, they had a fall, and we are just struggling to make new highs. This is the short term 60-minute chart. So it's really interesting that we should see that. And we saw quite a mixed picture. So Tesla, they were down 7%. That was quite a big move yesterday. If you look at that on the daily chart, just again, their high was back in January, and we've really struggled ever since to make new highs there. So that's quite key. SpaceX, on the other hand, was up 2.8%. That's, of course, the daily chart. We can go to the 60-minute chart. We are just struggling to hold on to that initial euphoria that we saw, and of course a break below 150 would send us into the 130s. We do have targets there, so that's quite key, seeing those targets into the 130s, and that of course would be quite negative for the market. But it was such a mixed picture yesterday. We saw Apple up nearly 5%. But then, a lot of other stocks like Meta down 5%, Nvidia down, and this was enough to drag the Nasdaq lower. But it's interesting that we are seeing globally equities still looking relatively strong. We saw here the UK market up this morning just very slightly. The DAX up 0.7%. It's hitting its short-term target, and the Aussie market certainly had a good day, up 1.3%. So we're seeing some quite big moves there, and Japan up 1.1%. Japan, very interesting still. We're seeing that yen. We are seeing that pullback from 163. Quite a few people. That's the short-term chart. Quite a few people shorting that now. Again, probably intervention from the Bank of Japan having an impact there as well. It's a brave trade though, counter trend. And if we look at the bond yield for Japan, that has, many of you will know, has been a concern of mine. Just back above that 280 level. Japan, the most indebted country in the world. This is, again, just moves higher in bond yields is having an impact for Japan. Their cost of borrowing increasing. And if we look at the US 10-year yields, they are actually just holding off at the moment as we head into the 4th of July weekend. Coming back to the markets, we've seen crude oil. That's been relatively flat. We went out as neutral today to clients. We are just testing that low of $70, but we are seeing respite there. Gold, remember we talked about gold yesterday? Well, that has had a big move. When we talked about it yesterday, we were just above 44,000. We're now nudging 4,200. So that is quite interesting that we are seeing gold recovering there. And is this the bottom? Still too hard to say. Got a lot of work to do. 4,500 is the level you'd want to see breaking there on the medium-term chart. And on the long-term chart, we may well be finding support on the cloud here. So quite interesting. So gold looking stronger. Silver also looking stronger. So that's also just quite a key aspect that we are seeing. Precious metals, which we covered in detail yesterday, actually looking stronger. We can see the strength of market here in the US majors. The Dow, these are the Dow charts here. We've got really recovery all around. Apple really bouncing on the cloud there, so that's looking pretty strong. The worst performers were have been the best looking stocks. So we had 4 stocks down. Cisco giving up some ground, down 4%, but still above the cloud. Caterpillar has been a really strong performer, but pulled back yesterday. And the key thing is, are we finding a top here? Just starting to look below the short-term chart. And this is the key thing, is you can look at these short-term targets and say, do I want to live with that level of downward pressure? This target being counter trend, would not be surprised to see that not met, of course. Nvidia It has been an interesting one, of course, of late. We've got this big upside target, but Nvidia, really, its high point was back in May, and it has been pretty bearish on that short-term chart ever since. 176, 177 is the target level, so that's quite a bit lower still. Last of all, we're going to look at the UK market today, and the interesting thing here is this is my ranking. So these are the trends: long term, medium term, and short term, bullish, bullish, bullish. So this is where I find the strength. I've ranked them this morning by strength. The weakness, you only got 3 stocks in the FTSE: Entertain, Pemberton, and Relx. That's been a really bad looking stock. A couple of minor fives, but we can see it's predominantly positive, and we've got a lot of sixes. And the way you can do this is just re-rank that. So we just renumber the rows, and you can see we've got 24 stocks that have got a value of 6. So ultimately, about a quarter of the market. So we're really seeing strength there in the UK market. And so we can just go to the charts. So these are the medium-term charts and the targets. So Diploma got upside targets. We need to break that resistance level. Those targets are a bit historic now. This one's looking very interesting. Smith's Group, upside targets there. So that's quite key. Lloyd's Bank looking strong with upside targets above the cloud. Legal and General, again, upside targets there. Landsec, so we're seeing there, and we can just keep going. So this is really looking at the strength on the market. So NatWest Banking Group, HSBC, seeing strength in UK banks. So that's really quite strong. Pearson's really have had a pretty strong move there. It's quite interesting in comparison to Relx. And then if we look at Standard Chartered, we can see here banks looking strong again. Coca-Cola and British Land, even M&S is figuring in that upside potential. So it really is a case of just trying to find where that strength is in the market, and then comparing it with where you're seeing the price targets. Aviva, Rolls-Royce, that Aviva chart looks amazing, and we're seeing here upside targets and really holding the strength. Now, of course, the key thing is you might, if you're a longer term investor, you might want to look at the weekly charts. So I've switched to weekly, and now we're seeing Diploma, the extent of the upside potential for the long term. And the great thing is, if you've got all of these trends lining up, Smith's Group, we need to break to a new high to activate a bigger upside target, but that was looking strong. Lloyd's, we're now seeing the longer term upside target, 19%. Legal and General, we can see here Landsec. So we are seeing just the extent of these longer term targets. And of course, then you can go to the short term picture, and you can see for your timing, that's quite key as well. So that's it for today. Have a great weekend. If you're in the US, happy 4th of July, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye for now.